Welcome. This video is intended for Ryan, Ross, and Eric. It's not polished. I'm not editing. I'm just going to give you kind of a stream of consciousness of what it is that I have envisioned and come up with thus far. So it pretty much reads from left to right in my workflow in my mind. So the contractor, you start with a contractor. They have jobs. The contractor, we will capture their information, and then we will capture their projects, which then turn into driving jobs, individual day-by-day jobs. Then, unused at the moment, but we have a future possibility of a compliance module for trucks that you may run that don't have someone else taking ownership of that, or for other purposes that I may market this for outside of your span of control. So then the job that the contractor builds, hopefully it goes through a compliant driver and truck trailer. Then it's into the broker, that would be Ryan. Then there's another whole module for the driver to track his day, his time, his loads and or tons, etc. And then this is a public-facing portal that is designed to both capture and document fill wanted opportunities. All right, so let's start with the contractor portal. Now, I don't have in any way, shape, or form a polished presentation here, and that's not my intent. But these are the contractors that I peeled out of your QuickBooks yesterday. And so listening to what you said about DiPietro, Kavanaugh, Cardinal, Kokosing, and others, I kind of have the impression that there are people that you deal with frequently, some that you deal with regularly, some that you only deal with occasionally and rare. So for the most part, we will keep them out of view, but we could still get to them by just doing a search here. I'm going to search for, let's say, Youngstown. So there's YOUN, brought up Youngstown, and I'm sure if we dug into each one of those, we would find out why it's in there, whether it's an address, whether it's a person's name, Roger Young, etc. Now, you can edit those, and I don't know that I have the right information necessarily, but this is the contractor. So you have company name, what their status is, what their payment terms are with you. This would be their bill to address, their legacy contact if you had someone you've always worked with there, their email, then primary contact, alternate contact. That is primarily in case it's a smaller organization that doesn't have a contact for a given project. So the contractor is the project coordinator, and then that information would go here. So that's the contractors list. Then contractors manage and own projects. So you come down here and you say, all right, here's a bunch of projects that these contractors, and obviously this is all dummy data. So you say, all right, what do we have here at Water Treatment Plant in Louisville? If I click on that, it's going to bring up the information, address, and then we can click on Get Coordinates, and there it just updated the coordinates. What's the current status of this project? Notice we could have forecast something out in July, scheduled something that is actually going to happen in the next, let's just say, month or so, active, people that you are currently assigning trucks and drivers to, and then inactive or completed. The intention of this page right here is that the contractor would be filling this out for a given project. What's the start date? What's the end date? Who's the site super? How do we contact him? Give us a little bit of instructions for getting in and out if relevant. Special requirements. You can click one or more of these and it's going to turn that into our the text message that we send to the drivers. I hope a lot of this is old knowledge. And then down below, if we wanted to quick add some notes right here, we could have, parking instruction, operating hours, PPE requirements, etc. And then at that time, the point of contact with the company would just say, not on site, something like that. So then that, when it's all said and done, they would save that. So now that job has more specific guidance: who, what, when, where, how, etc. So for the project itself, now we are going to turn it into how many trucks do we need, when, and where. Well, there's a lot built into this that you'll want to think about, and I'm sure change the way I went about it. But let's just say now we're taking the very first contractor, Zollinger, and we're going to call this, I don't know why that's there, but Canton Industrial Park. So today is January 31st. If we wanted to have multiple days here, today's the 30th, and tomorrow's the 31st. Let's just put the next day. We'll put 1st and 2nd as well. Now let's get rid of the Sunday. So now we have 2 days worth of Zollinger Excavating at Canton Industrial Park, and they want 3 trucks both days. That's how that would be. So this is going to create 6 jobs total, 3 trucks over 2 days. And I don't know what you would put here, but I'm just going to put hauling fill dirt, pickup location, on-site, delivery location. We can deal with that however you want later. Special instructions there, and we hit submit request. So now let's remember that's Zollinger, and you'll see over here that it's unassigned, but there are 6 trucks required. Currently, none of them are assigned. And so here, Yoder's landforming, we got 1 out of 9 is assigned, 0 out of 2, etc. Down here, notice these are fully assigned. So for the 2nd of February, the previous jobs on the docket have been assigned. Now, what does that do for us? Well, now that the pipeline has gotten filled from the contractor and we know about the project, and then the project has requirements for X number of trucks on X number of days, then we come to Ryan's job, which is the dispatch. So he says, all right, what do I have tomorrow, Saturday, the 31st? So it looks like we have 17 jobs tomorrow, and we want to start filling them. So some of those jobs are already here, and you can click on that and say, okay, Canton Industrial Park, Zollinger. Over here in Alliance, what do we have? Alliance Commercial Center, that's a job. And then down here, let's see, I saw another one. Here we are, Minerva. So these are the jobs that you would be running for this day. But we don't have any trucks yet. So we need to assign them to trucks. So I'm going to come up here and say, all right, who do we want to put where? Well, I'm going off of what you told me, Ryan, that you use a notebook with a bunch of grids on it and you start filling it in. I'm going to show you something more interesting, or something I think is interesting first, and give you some pause for thought. We are using a Google Maps API that is creating a matrix, and a matrix is just a grid of X by Y dimensions. So I'm going to click this button here, and it's going to say you have 25 drivers and 17 jobs listed. Calculate the distances. And this is really sweet. Now look at that. So it says, all right, for this job, Andrew Robinson is 3 miles away. Brian is even closer at 2.1 and 2.2 with these two. So you could use this to say, all right, fairness would dictate that we assign someone the closest to home, so actually to their shop, to wherever they declared that their truck is parked. But now notice, I want to assign this job number 3, notice the suffix 3. I'm going to assign that to Andrew since he's so close. I click it. Do you want to assign it? Yes. Now, it's going to block out that job as assigned. So no one else in this column is it going to allow you to do, and it's not going to allow you to click on Andrew again that day since he's already booked. We could come down and say, okay, Brian Allen is also only 2 miles away. We're going to assign him. Now let's remember those two names, Andrew Robinson and Brian Allen. I'm going to hit close here, and we're going to come up and look at our assigned for this date, and we should have Andrew, there he is, and Brian, there he is. So of the 17 that were there, we now have 15 that are unassigned and 2 that are assigned. Now this one here, if you don't like it, we can change it. But the purpose that I had in mind is that if you said, look, I got to start over. I got 40 things here and I kind of got myself boxed into a mess. I'm just going to unassign it so I can start over. Well, you take that. Do you want to unassign it? Yeah, let's unassign those 2 jobs. So now we're back to where we were a moment ago. What you can do also is, instead of worrying about how much mileage from one place to another, I'm going to grab this card right here. Whoops. That one's already assigned. No, that one's unassigned. Let me see here. Well, that feature may not be working at the moment, so disregard it. But I'm going to take now James Wilson and assign him to the Canton Industrial Park. Then I'm going to take another one, Joshua Young, assign him to that same job. And Kenneth Walker over here to Canton Industrial Park job -1. So now you'll notice that as we are populating this, we're getting these people, each one of them, one by one, assigned to work. I can unassign them by coming over here and saying Kenneth Walker. Notice right here is Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker. I'm going to remove him from this job tasking. I'm going to assign someone else. So he's gone. He's back in the mix down here, and the job should be back in the unassigned listing. Again, like I said, there's a lot going on here, and it may be more than you want. You can get rid of the site contact, get rid of the job info. You'll know most of this by heart after a while. So the purpose of this, though, is not for you necessarily, but to give the drivers a full and complete package of information that tell them who, what, when, where, how, why. And all you have to do is be dragging boxes left and right. Notice also, we can, if we have selected, let's see, that's Canton Industrial Park. Let's just take this one here. I can assign that by just dragging him right there. So now he's assigned. We come up here and find Marcus Johnson in the assigned category. Oops, sorry about that. What day is that? Marcus Johnson right here. And that's for Saturday the 31st, tomorrow. Okay, that, without boring you to tears, that is basically how I envision working the assignment of jobs. We get them into this queue right here. These are jobs. And notice over here, I have said that we have a group of Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 drivers. So you said, hey, I have a group of, I think it was 18 or 20 trucks and drivers that you pretty much own and can steer on any given day. So that's what these are. These would be the next tier down where you say, basically anytime I call them, if they got a driver and a truck, they're gonna play ball with us. So that would be tier 2 drivers. Tier 3 would kind of be your, it's iffy. He's also a farmer, runs he's a volunteer fireman or whatever. Sometimes he can do it, sometimes he can't. Whatever it is. So this is the list of Tier 3 drivers. They may or may not be closer to the job. So if you came over here to your distance matrix and said, all right, well, I wouldn't have thought of Daniel Thompson, but wow, it's only 2 miles from his house. He may jump all over that. And that's one of the reasons for this thing here, is that you say, all right, let's go down here and find Daniel Johnson. I don't even know where it is. I don't see it, and I don't want to waste your time. But let's say that it was down here in this one right here. We click that, and yes, assign that now to theoretically or simulated Daniel Johnson. And so you could conceivably assign the entire day from this matrix, this job matrix, and say, all right, I'm going to always give it to the guy who's closest. And Michael Davis here is in North Canton, so we're going to assign him that job. All right, I'm hoping that makes sense. I'm not saying it's the best model yet, but I'm giving you an idea of some of what you're potentially getting here if you can work with it. There's another thing to pay attention to. Notice this is for tomorrow. Let's just see what we have today. So we have 0 unassigned today. We have 6 assigned. And we would look down here and say, okay, what are my assigned jobs for today? Excuse me, I didn't mean to say 6 for today. There are 3. I'm not 100% sure. This 6 may be applying to another number, and I'll want to look into that. But the basic idea is that you can see what you've assigned for a given date. Now, notice that we also have upcoming jobs. So those would be beyond the current, so beyond tomorrow. In this case here, Saturday, Sunday, as you scroll down, there's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So you could conceivably begin scheduling out that far in advance if you know from the project coordinator that he wants this number of trucks. You could be going day by day through this and assigning one driver multiple days in a row. However you want to do it is hopefully how it will allow you to do it. And that's the key point, is that you have a lot of flexibility with what you're able to do. Now, notice these are already 3 assigned, and on Monday, from what I just was grabbing, 1 assigned on Tuesday, 1 assigned on Wednesday. Click on this, and it's going to take us over to the map. Come up here, and I'll have to look and see why that's not on there. But these all pertain. Oh, this is today's job map. It's supposed to move. Let's see, what day did I say that was on? Tuesday. There we go. Tuesday and Monday. So let's look down on Tuesday, and we have one Jake Green. Gonna want to do more homework here, but that's okay. It's a prototype. So now we get out of there, and I'm going to expand this to look at our home page to say, all right, so we've got the contractor who's entering his information. We've got the contract or the project manager or whomever entering theirs. We're ignoring compliance at the moment. You now are assigning drivers, and then you have a driver app. Haven't put as much time into this yet, but let's come down here, and the idea is that we get to the ticket. This is your moneymaker, okay? So you'd be able to come up here, select a driver, and of the assigned drivers, you can pick Daniel Thompson, let's just say. He would have this ticket, this link, a link to this specific information for that day. And he says, all right, I'm working for Yoder's Land Farming, and one of the projects is whatever, Minerva Residential. The date would be whatever date was on the job tasking, the truck number. This probably, Ryan, you will want to tell me how to handle that. We pre-populated Daniel because he's the one that we just selected. We would know his broker hauler if he's attached to someone, so it would populate that. He doesn't have to put any of that in like he currently has to write it on your form. Depending upon what type of job, it's either an hourly job, a per ton job, per day, or something else. I don't really know how you guys do your business. Let's just say $125 per hour, and the start time, he can enter that. Ryan, I'm asking you a question here. Would you like to limit these to like every 15 minutes or every 10 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever, but certainly not every minute. We're not. It just makes it a pain in the neck to go through that. So please get back to me on that. So I'm gonna say 7 a.m. and that's good enough there. End time is going to be 7 p.m. and we'll go 7:03 p.m. and so that's 12.1 hours, and that's $1,512.50. Asking what did he haul on his first load? Well, let's just say he hauled fill. Let's see, this was hourly, so it really probably isn't measured. That you'll have to coach me on. Another load could be something where he's hauling mulch. Hell, I don't know what to put here. So 42.5 tons, weight ticket 4. And so then a signature, and had a good demo. All right, so then he would submit that. Now notice up here though, you have the opportunity to add a photo, as I told you yesterday. So you would click that. It would activate his phone camera. Because I'm not on a device that has a phone, it defaults to finding an image. But if it were your phone, it would turn on the camera and allow you to take a picture of this weight ticket or invoice or whatever else. It would attach it to that load line item. If you wanted to, if you were hauling multiple loads, let's say like this load here, you could just keep on clicking these. Another load of mulch for 41.1 tons, and weight ticket would be 1239, and blah blah blah. You get it. Okay. So now we're going to submit that at the end of the day, at the end of the tasking order that came from the truck request. So he hits that and says, "This is what you are submitting. Is it all correct for Ryan Yoder? Load 1, fill dirt. Load 2, load 3, total loads, yes." And hit submit. Notice I don't have the hours in there. That I'll need to fix. So now we hit submit, and it's going into your master database and eventually to your QuickBooks. It would populate the QuickBooks with all this information none of it needing retyped. This is a possibility. I'm not advertising it, but you could have a chat window operating, and you would be able to chat with your drivers or with dispatchers, similar to the way you use WhatsApp. Again, I'm not advocating it necessarily, but it is a possibility. Let's see. So we're going to come back home here, and the public portal, just a gee whiz. This is Fill Dirt Wanted, site name, as it says, Smith Farm, type of fill, couple options there, exact address, estimated volume needed, landowner verification, basically making 100% sure that this is okay to dump, and I may be making this out to be more than it really is from your perspective, but it's there. Okay, so now we come back to the top, and oops, sorry about that. The next thing in line would be after the driver app. We would be putting another portal in here that is basically administration, okay? Billing, invoicing, paying, documenting, archiving, etc. And if we get this whole group of options and portal modules correct, then the big bones have been built. I happen to think that this plus that would put us in a what's called an MVP, or a minimum viable product, or something test worthy on a test basis. 2 or 3 good drivers that you have a good relationship with, and you say, okay, John, Fred, Joe, are you willing to play ball with me here? We need to roll this out soon. I'd like some honest to goodness drivers to give us feedback, be positive where positive, critical where necessary, and help us improve it. I would really love to hear from any of you guys, your feedback on this. This was easier to record than it was to talk on the phone. Again, we got the broker portal here. That would be Ryan. We have, templates and messages. That would be boilerplate going out. Billing eventually would come. Admin settings, not a whole lot here yet, but these are variables that we would fill in and say, okay, this is the type of information that we need. Ryan, for your sake, we have the ability to turn on and turn off. So I'm just going to, this public fill portal, I'm going to turn that off at the moment and show you really what this is. So I hit save configuration, then I come back to home, and when I hit refresh, hopefully that disappears. Nope, it didn't. So it's letting me down. I have to fix that. But turning that switch off should have turned this off and this off if we were doing it the way it's designed. It's just not yet fully coded and programmed. Okay, guys, hopefully this was worthwhile, and this is the starting point. Ryan, don't let me go any further if you don't like what you see, because it's, it's already a lot of work, and I don't want to be doing something that won't satisfy you. Now, we can change the color of the paint. We can change the font. We can change what's displayed, meaning that's just too much information. I don't like to see a lot of information. But changing the way it works, I need to know now, so that I'm not building something that you can never live with. All right, don't forget, you're educating me on the industry. That's your task. My task is to try to gather all that into my brain and turn it into an application. All right, cheerio. Stay warm tonight. Going to be a cold one.